The wooden benches creak as people shift, the air thick with that hushed static that lives in courtrooms right before something irreversible happens. Eden sits straight back at the witness stand, the overhead lights making her glasses flash, hands steady on the edge as if gripping the whole country in place. The prosecutor's voice is calm but loaded, asking her to walk everyone through what brought her here, and she does not with a lawyer's measured steps, but with the jagged truth of someone who's seen the machine from the inside and survived. She speaks of Alana's death, of Arya Barron's erased identity, of files rescued from flames, of a warehouse full of lives converted into line items, her voice threading through timelines like a needle sewing a torn flag back together. There's a weird scholarly footnote here. Historians still argue whether this trial will be remembered as the Rust Creek Reckoning or something grander, but in the moment, it just feels like the walls are finally listening. The defense tries to chip away, starting with Linda McCall's lawyer, who's got that smirk you only get from a career of billing by the hour. He objects on relevance, on tone, on the shape of Eden's sentences, but the judge, an older black woman whose gavel has probably kept more order than half the police force ever did, overrules him every time. The tension snaps when Claudia Johnson, frail but fierce in her Sunday best, is called next. She clutches the faded barbecue photo like a relic, naming each smiling face, her voice steady even when she points at the glass wall where the accused sit. That's them. Every one of them. You could hear a pin drop if it weren't for someone's stomach growling in the back, a reminder that justice is rarely served on time. The Stratthorne exec's attorney tries the "my client was just a businessman" line, but Claudia cuts in, saying he signed every check, shook every hand, and told them to be grateful for the jobs in kitchens and jails. A murmur runs through the gallery, equal parts disbelief and the thrill of watching a bully get their first shove back. Out of nowhere, a bailiff sneezes, breaking the tension just enough for someone in the back to whisper, "Bless you and bless this day," earning a ripple of chuckles. It's a small moment, but it reminds everyone that even here, in a room heavy with years of pain, humanity slips in through the cracks. The cross-examination starts like a chess game played by someone who thinks pawns can't bite back. Stratthorne's attorney paces, tie perfectly knotted, voice dripping with the kind of charm that makes jurors squint. He asks Eden if maybe she misunderstood, if perhaps the ledgers could be accounting errors, if the violent arrest was just an unfortunate misunderstanding. Eden's answer lands like a hammer. Mistakes don't bury children under false names for 15 years. The jurors shift in their seats, some nodding, some trying to keep their faces neutral, but the air feels different now, heavier with the sense that the old script isn't working anymore. Reggie Foster takes the stand next, legal pad in hand. The man's got the posture of someone who's been cross-examined before breakfast. He confirms the money trail, each transfer, each fake nonprofit, each grant cycle that lined up with a spike in missing girls. The defense tries to rattle him, suggesting maybe his firm had political motivations, but Reggie flips through a folder, slides a document forward, and says, "The only motivation here is the truth, and it's notarized." Even the court reporter smirks before looking back down at her keys. Historians still argue whether this was the moment the defense's case began to crumble, but the mood in the gallery shifts like a weather front. Then comes Malcolm Price, the pathologist, carrying the DNA report like it's both a weapon and a shield. He explains how Arya Barron's blood didn't match the family on her death certificate, how her records have been switched, and how samples vanished after police visits. The defense tries to imply contamination or incompetence, but Malcolm leans in and says, "DNA doesn't lie. People do." Someone in the back mutters "Amen," and it earns a quick glare from the bailiff, but no one's sorry. It's the mayor's turn in the hot seat, and Linda McCall tries to project confidence, answering each question like she's still at a ribbon cutting. But when confronted with her signature on a Stratthorne payout contract, her voice falters. "I don't recall this specific document." Eden, from her seat, watches the jurors clock the hesitation. A quirky bit slips in here. One juror idly spins a pen that has Rust Creek Fall Festival printed on it, the same event where the barbecue photo was taken. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe it's the universe winking in the middle of a trial that's anything but funny. By the time court adjourns for the day, the defense's foundation looks less like stone and more like wet cardboard. The accused file out under heavier stairs than they walked in with. Outside, cameras wait, and the crowd buzzes with that low, electric hum of people sensing they might be watching the old order fall apart in real time. The final day of testimony feels like the town holding its breath. The gallery is packed, every bench full, the smell of coffee and damp coats mixing with the faint tang of nerves. Closing arguments start with the prosecution weaving every thread together Arya's erased identity. The payouts, the photo, the ledger into one long, unbroken rope meant to pull the jury toward a single conclusion. They remind the court that justice isn't about comfort. It's about confronting what's been hiding in plain sight. The defense tries to counter, leaning hard on reasonable doubt, but their words land soft, like someone reading a bedtime story to a room that's already decided to stay awake. Eden sits still, but her mind's a storm. She catches Officer Cross in the corner of her vision, the same man who beat her in public now pale, sweat pooling at his collar. The quirky tidbit of the day: one juror chews the same brand of peppermint gum that Eden's mother used to keep in her purse, and the scent drifts across the room, pulling her focus for a heartbeat, reminding her why she's here. Historians still argue whether these small, human moments help or hurt in trials. But in this one, it feels like a quiet thread tying the case back to something real. When the jury files out to deliberate, the courtroom becomes a waiting room for history. Hours pass. People step outside for air, reporters whisper into their phones, and Claudia Johnson hums a hymn under her breath. Then the signal. The jury's back. Everyone rises, the scrape of benches loud in the silence. The foreperson's voice is steady as they read. Guilty on all counts: conspiracy, trafficking, obstruction, and more. Each name is a brick pulled from the wall that's kept Russ Creek's truth buried for decades. The reaction is a wave without sound at first: tears, hands covering mouths, heads bowed, then applause breaks, not loud, but relentless, like rain that's been building for years. The judge thanks the jury and calls for order, but even she's smiling. Eden exhales, her shoulders finally lowering after what feels like a lifetime. Outside, cameras swarm, but she steps into the light anyway, holding Claudia's hand, while on the other side, Malcolm, just behind. The defendants are loaded into vans, their faces caught in the glare of 100 lenses. Eden knows this isn't the end. Appeals will come. Political backlash will roar, and the machinery of power doesn't dismantle itself in a single verdict. But for today, the people who thought they were untouchable have been touched by the one thing they couldn't control: the truth. And that truth is walking out of the courthouse under the open sky. The crowd spills into the street, chanting, singing, hugging strangers. Russ Creek feels different in the air, lighter somehow, as if the whole place just realized it could breathe. Eden lets herself stand still for a moment, feeling the winter sun on her face, letting it warm the bruises. The fight isn't over. It may never be, but the tide has turned, and she's still here to see it. The courthouse steps empty slowly, as though no one quite wants to be the first to leave this moment behind. The air is cool, touched with the faint scent of pine drifting in from the edge of town, and the sound of voices fades into the low murmur of traffic. Eden stands with her small circle, watching the last news vans pull away, their satellite dishes dipping under a sky finally clearing after days of cloud. The streets feel different now, not safe exactly, but seen. It's a fragile thing, this new awareness, like frost on glass that could vanish with a careless breath. Yet for now it holds. Will rests a hand on her shoulder, a silent reminder that none of this was done alone. Malcolm leans against the railing, eyes distant but softer, as if the edges of his fear have worn down. Claudia smiles faintly, that photograph now tucked safely into her bag, no longer just a secret to guard but a story to share. The hum of the town is slower here, footsteps unhurried, conversations carrying in the open air without the sharp snap of suspicion. Somewhere down the block, a church bell marks the hour, its tone low and steady. The sound rolls over the street like a calm tide, washing away the last sharp edges of the day. Eden closes her eyes briefly, letting the chimes settle in her chest. Tomorrow will bring its own noise, headlines, filings, maybe even threats, but tonight belongs to stillness, to the rare, quiet space after the storm and before the next wave. The wind lifts, cool and gentle, tugging at her coat as if to guide her home. She lets it. Justice may be slow, but tonight, in Rust Creek, it feels real.